Taylem Group of Companies named telecom provider for St. Martin Heineken Regatta's 40th edition. Clear Elshot on civil servants general meeting to be held on March 5th, 2020. But first up, St. Martin Concrete sponsors Dow's Musical Foundation Steel Pan competition. Those are the headlines for Friday, February 28th, 2020. This is SXM Daily News. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Now for the details. St. Martin Concrete has sponsored the Dow Musical Foundation Beyond the Classroom Steel Pan competition between the schools. Now, General Manager of St. Martin Concrete, Kanisha Davis, says she is pleased and honored to be able to sponsor such an event. Isidore, the mighty Dow York, thanked his sponsor and spoke about the importance of music in the classroom. School manager Mrs. Juliana Shipley and facilities manager Gary Cooper were also on hand for the presentation.
And I am pleased and honored to be here today with Dow's Musical Foundation and representatives from the Methodist Agogic Center. We are here today to sponsor the Beyond the Classroom Steel Pan competition between the schools, and I am so proud and honored to be a sponsor this year for this event. This is definitely something I wish that I could have been a part of when I was in elementary school, and I'm happy that the children of today get this opportunity to participate and learn the steel pan, because we know this is something that's near and dear to Dow's heart, and to be able to have so much children learn the steel pan, it's just amazing. I'm honored that you guys presented this opportunity to me, and it's something that I'm really happy to be a part of. Thank you guys so much. I would like to present you with this check for the event, and I can't wait to see the event, how it turns out, and I hope the children really enjoy it as well.
Of course, I want to thank St. Martin Concrete, because from the first go when I brought it to their attention that what we're doing at Beyond the Classroom, and I want to explain you a little bit about that. Beyond the Classroom, we're just not here to give music in the classroom, in the four corners of the room. We want to take it out. We want the children to be able to do performances, appearances that will build their confidence, build their discipline level. And when I said that, Kanisha from St. Martin Concrete was, yeah, good. And then I encourage all the sponsors to sponsor a school. And Kanisha said one time, it has to be Mac, because I went to that school. She said, the only thing, I'm upset a little because I am not part of it. I wish I had that in school. And we want to thank her very much, and I want to assure them that they will not be disappointed, because we also want to give them that support in terms of, because you're a sponsor, and we just didn't want you to sponsor a school and then we turn our back and say, there you go. We want people to be aware of the private sector who's donating to programs such as this, which is very, very important. More important than you may think, because this will go a long way. This is going to be an annual event. It's going to be every year. And not only that, we have a series of functions, events that we're doing throughout the whole year. So it's not like a one day thing and then we turn our backs away. So without any further ado, I also want to thank the MAC school who's here today, because there's with the sponsorship that will cover that school. For an example, there's a lot of items that we need to cover. And I hope now this also will encourage the other sponsors. We have many sponsors on board, but we still need a couple more to complete the program. And we're very happy and excited about this. This is going to happen on April 4th at the Festival Village. We have 9 primary schools who's going to be battling it out on the steel pan field, as they say. And we look forward to much more support from St. Martin Concrete. And we want you to encourage the people on your Facebook page, on the staff, and make sure to come out and shout for their school that is sponsoring. All right? And give the youngsters the support that they need. That's important for us.
We are very proud to be part of this program. So on the April is 4th, we have this competition, and I can see the children are very enthusiastic about this, and I know we are going to do our best to come on top of this competition. And very, very much thank you for this sponsor.
I am really happy to be here to see the kind of work that Dow and the private sector are presently engaged in terms of promoting the children's steel pan competition on St. Martin. I am from Trinidad, but I am here assisting him because I think it is a noble, I think it's a very useful idea, especially with crime escalating in all these Caribbean countries. So I wish them all the success, and I see this growing from strength to strength, and we look forward to the private sector participation. Thank you.
And in other news, a special information session on pension reform will be held on Thursday, March the 5th, 2020. President of the WICSU, Mrs. Claire Elshot, announced, and she spoke about the importance of this meeting. She elaborates.
WICSU PSU, in the form of their General Secretary, Mr. Bakari Arendel, Reginald Bakari Arendel, issued an invitation to all civil servants to be present at an informative meeting on March the 5th from 3 to 5 p.m. in the government building. This important meeting, and if you note, it is during working hours 3 to 5, it has to do with the restructuring of the pension fund. What started out with actually the increase of the pension age from 62 to 65, there are a number of components that the union feel it is necessary to share with our members so that they would be aware, they can have their input, and they would be enlightened so far as to what the union has done. So basically, I would like to again put voice to that call and the invitation of the WICSU PSU to their members to be there and to partake in that information session. The information and sharing of information to civil servants is part of their rights. Actually, permission was sought and was granted by the Minister of General Affairs, who's also the Minister of Personnel, to be able to host this meeting, this very important meeting, in the government administration building. So we would like to urge all civil servants to make use of this opportunity to be informed on the pension reform, because it directly would affect you as member. So therefore, we are very, very happy that our sister union is able to do that.
And in more news, Party for Progress, PFP, Member of Parliament in the opposition, MP Rayon Peterson, is seeking answers to a number of questions regarding building permits and government long lease land from Minister of Public Housing, Environment, Spatial Development and Infrastructure, VROMI, Christopher Waver. Member of Parliament Peterson outlined his questions in a letter to the minister dated February the 26th. He asked how many building permits had Minister Waver issued from November 2019 through February 2020 and what revenue had resulted from this. He also asked the minister to outline his plans and those of the VROMI Policy Department to address the lack of a policy on the issuance of long lease land, given that there are persons with requests for long lease land dating back more than 10 years. In the past, we have seen several ministers of VROMI issue questionable instructions through the last month of their tenure while they were in a caretaker status. Some of these cases have reached the courts. In light of transparency and given the caretaker status of the minister, have there been any instructions for cases to be prioritized given to the Department of Domain Affairs through the months of November 2019 to February 2020 to issue long lease land to specific persons? If so, what is the reason for the urgency of the instruction, and who are the proposed recipients of long lease land, and where are these parcels located? Peterson asked. In the past, when a minister is leaving office at the end of his tenure, there have been several attempts to place non-civil servants, cabinet members in the departments within the ministry without going through the regular interview procedure. In light of transparency, are there any plans to place current cabinet staff members in the department of the Ministry of VROMI? If so, are those individuals going to go through the normal interview process, and have those vacancies been published so other persons who wish to apply can do so? Peterson said that the sitting Council of Ministers has a caretaker status which, according to a verdict in the court of first instance of May 31st, 2017, means that a minister has to be reserved in decision-making during the caretaker period. He said his questions were in light of transparency. Peterson requested that the answers be provided within 2 weeks, given Waver's caretaker status. And still to come, Prime Minister Sylvania Jacobs announces plans for 2020 Hurricane Expo. We'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
And as the island begins to prepare for the 2020 hurricane season, hurricane preparedness is of top priority. Prime Minister Mrs. Sylvania Jacobs, who is also Minister of General Affairs, announced that a Hurricane Expo, which is to be held before the hurricane season. This expo is being heavily supported by Koiman Megastore and Nagico Insurances.
As we enter another year, and with the hurricane preparedness being one of government's priorities, I held a meeting as Minister of General Affairs with the internal lead organizer of our annual Hurricane Expo. This was held last week. We met to discuss how government should approach and adjust this year's Hurricane Expo. Of course, I was given a breakdown as to how it was executed in the past. And this year, the expo is being heavily supported by Koiman, as well as Nagico, an insurance provider. They have formed part of the organization or participated in the organization in the years past, but especially Koiman came forward with many suggestions in how it could be improved and how they could contribute, actually, which I think is a great initiative from the business community. So their proposal is being perused and further explored and adjusted as we move forward. I would like to, through this medium, encourage and recommend other businesses to also continue to partner with government to make this year's Hurricane Expo an even bigger and more successful event than it has been in the past. This year's planning, we will be approaching such entities as well as service providers to partner with us to make it a grand event. Also in that meeting, in preparing for this session, I brought forward that I would like to see it be more of a disaster management preparedness and not solely focus on hurricanes. As we've gotten quite used to preparing for the hurricane season. It has a set time, but at any time during the year, we can be hit with any other type of disaster. So in preparing for this expo, you will also be seeing different presentations, etc., regarding general disaster management. I think this would then bring St. Martin's awareness level up a notch. We are also partnering, of course, with DCOM and other entities to ensure that we continue to stay vigilant and inform the public in terms of preparedness across the board. So look out for that. It's coming, I believe, towards the beginning of the hurricane season, which would be in June or early July. You can look out for that.
Now, seeing that there is still so much work yet to be done on the island, Minister of Romy, Christopher Waver, fielded a question from the media asking if there is any work for locals. The minister also gave an update about the Dutch Quarter project. He was speaking at the weekly Council of Ministers press briefing last Wednesday.
Well, I agree. I mean, locals, we need to ensure that our locals have jobs and have the opportunities. In any discussion I have with any investor or anything like that, it's okay, but how will you employ the locals and how can we get the locals involved? Even if it's to train the locals and then they leave and then the locals take up the responsibilities in that sense. A perfect example as well is the Dutch Quarter project that we need to ensure that that continues and that gets on the way as soon as possible as well, because all of the subcontractors there are from the Dutch Quarter area, and I mean, it goes beyond, my ministry is garbage collection or maintenance or anything like that. I think it goes all across the board in the whole government entity for whatever works are available, that we ensure that the locals also are part of it.
Now turning to our weather forecast. Though a weak surface trough is moving through the region, the relatively low moisture levels in the atmosphere will limit significant shower activity. Additionally, the relaxed pressure gradient will maintain a light to moderate wind flow during this forecast period. Seas are subsiding but still expected to peak near 7 feet tonight. Small craft operators and sea bathers are advised to exercise caution. Now, let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, members of Parliament continue debate on single-use plastic bags. We'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
And as the debate continues on the ban of single-use plastic bags, members of Parliament in the opposition, Mrs. Sarah Westcott-Williams from the UD, Mr. Claudius Bancamper from the USP, and Mr. Rayon Peterson from the PFP party, they gave views on this ongoing debate.
One of those general comments was, as I mentioned, the choice of the General Police Ordinance for this particular ban and why legislate a ban. I mentioned earlier that according to a survey conducted by Nature Foundation, the general sentiment was that there was need for some type of legislation to have a more effective ban on the use of single-use plastic bags. I again want to stress, because this is not only for this initiative, it is generally the case that when we seek the advice of the Council of Advice, when we as members of Parliament propose a draft initiative, that you have something called, and I'm sure it has been mentioned to the members of Parliament, instructions for the regulations, the so-called aanwijzing voor de regelgeving. That's what I call the framework. This is what is always looked at when the Council of Advice advises on a draft initiative. So some of the things that we as members of Parliament have to take into consideration is whether what we are proposing, whether legislation is necessary, or could we just, for example, call on the people and say, please don't use single-use plastic bags. In this case, I felt legislation was necessary. The Council of Advice also asks regarding what's your objective? What do you want to achieve with any draft law? And they, as I mentioned earlier, also look at the financial component. Is there, and what is it? Is there a financial component, and what is it?
I came out of the Ministry of Romy. I think I know the dump better than anybody else, and I have a good indication on the damages plastic does to this country. But listening to your answers, I was lost for a while on the type of questions that were asked, because I get the impression that not many people in Parliament were aware of the high-level forums that are paid for by the Rijksinstituut Waterstaat of the Netherlands that were kept in St. Kitts, where a delegation from St. Martin was present, myself including, where clearly the ban on plastic has the highest priority in the Caribbean. We look at environmental damage, we look at the financial implications for businesses, so the stocking up and what that means. We look at economical spin-offs. What does it mean for the economy? What does it mean? It's exactly as what MP Bryson said. An airline comes in with garbage. How do you deal with it if there's a law and a ban on certain things? Enforcement, cooperation, and lastly, awareness/education. Now, I am more than willing to pass on the documentation that I have, because it shows. And by the way, at these high-level forums, Aruba and Curacao were also present. Our competitors in the tourism business are also there, especially St. Lucia, BVI, St. Kitts, Antigua. All of them are there, and they too. Antigua has a great framework when it comes to the ban of not only single-use plastic, but plastic straws, styrofoam, and they went as deep as you were talking about specific bans on certain other things. So there is a framework there that has a lot of information when it comes to the type of materials that you ban and why you ban them. You said it correctly, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We should maybe be able to try to use some of these informations they have. At these meetings, you also had institutions like UNEP there. Those are the United Nations Environmental Protection Agencies that work throughout the Caribbean with these type of organizations. Blue Sea and all of them were there because it was a water and waste conference. We were there for the waste, not for the water. But I think the education in schools is an ongoing something, if I'm not mistaken myself, at present between VROMI and the Nature Foundation. I think it needs much more injection, because I think we have one person from our ministry involved there at this point in time with the Nature Foundation, and I think the Nature Foundation lost a very great asset when Tatio migrated to Bonaire. Even though it's for a few years, it is still very, very difficult for us.
As PFP's manifesto says, we champion the ban of the import of non-biodegradable single-use plastics. As Mr. Baumkamp also said, countries like Haiti, Aruba, Dominica, Jamaica, Turks and Caicos have all banned the use of a form of single-use plastic, whether it's solely the plastic bags or the single-use plastic in general. And as of the 1st of February 2019, Grenada also issued a ban on the import of single-use plastic shopping bags with handles. Aside from the ban through legislation, I would also like to stress on the importance of awareness amongst the public to assist these initiatives as they affect St. Martin in its whole. Awareness campaigns to educate the public on reducing and separating waste at home should be put in place. It is also important to establish working protocols with the French side St. Martin on environmental policies and solid waste management to make sure that our efforts are combined. With that being said, I urge the Ministry of Romy to give this matter the priority it deserves. Sustainable waste management, environmental protection, and the general health of the citizens of St. Martin should automatically be one of the main priorities.
And in this footnote, it has been announced that as of March 1st, 2020, New York City will no longer have single-use plastic bags. And still to come, Telem Group of Companies named telecom provider for SXM Heineken Regatta 40th edition. And as the news continues, in other news at this time, Minister of Finance, Mr. Arduel Irion, speaking at the weekly Council of Ministers press briefing, spoke of how the financing of the Point Blanche prison came about. Minister of Justice Ekwe Doran made the announcement recently at the press briefing about securing financing for the Point Blanche prison.
What happened was that we have budgeted the 27 million in the capital needs, which was also a requirement of the Minister of Justice. You know, he spoke to me before he left for the trip. He emphasized the urgency of having funds made available for a prison to be either repaired or built. And speaking with the Minister Knops, they also agreed that this is also an urgent matter. So when the capital needs becomes available, we have budgeted $27 million for the prison.
And Telem Group has been named the official telecommunications provider for the St. Martin Heineken Regatta 2020. The announcement was made Tuesday during a sponsorship signing ceremony between the St. Martin Yacht Club, the organizers of the event, and Telem Group. Telem Group and the St. Martin Yacht Club consider their relationship as more of a partnership than a sponsorship because of the shared goal to profile the Caribbean's premier sailing event internationally to the benefit of the island and its people and St. Martin tourism in general. Telem CEO Kendall Dupersoy said an appeal was made to the company to provide telecommunication services for the St. Martin Heineken Regatta when they found themselves without its usual support for this year's historic anniversary event. I spoke to my commercial team, and it was clear that coming in with only 2 weeks before the start of the St. Martin Heineken Regatta would present us with some major challenges, but it was evident that the organizers were in need of a telecommunication provider, and we are deeply honored to now be part of such an important event that means so much to tourism in St. Martin and the boating community internationally. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you for watching and plan on meeting you back here on Monday, so do enjoy your weekend.